Well, good morning, Juventini. It's another episode of Live at 5 on the All Juve cast here. We are going to be previewing Matchday, and sorry that I am late. But again, extreme cold temperatures here, and the internet is acting up and doing some funny things. But I managed to get it going, and here we are. Thank you to everybody who was patiently waiting in the chat room here. We're going to get to this preview day. Before we get right into Napoli and Juventus, obviously we're going to touch on some of the surrounding topics of news, and I want to hear all your comments. I do have a guest who's slated to join, and here he is actually right now, right on cue. Right on cue. My man Yusuf joining us. Yusuf, just set up your camera there so everybody can see it. There you are, man. Good morning. Oh, your audio is not on, Yusuf. You'll have to sort that out. But once you get tied in here, just setting everybody up for Napoli Juventus. But what we're going to be doing is touching on the surrounding news. Everybody knows the big news. Obviously not positive news, but involving Artur, our midfielder who started to make great waves with us. Yusuf, have you got your audio going? No, it's not kicking on, man. Yeah. Yeah, you're on mute, Yusuf. We'll have to get you on here. So while Yusuf deals with that, hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Okay. So, Yusuf, we got the news of an Arthur injury, back when it occurred versus Atalanta. That's going to be joining us. Oh, we've got some echo now coming through your side, Yusuf.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to bail you out.
Can you hear me now?
So, unfortunately, Yusuf, we can't continue with that. There's way too much static. I'm not sure what the setup is on your end, but I know we're going to do this on short notice and have you join. Really apologize, man, but we were running behind. We're trying to do this live here. So, unfortunately, these things sometimes occur, but we'll have to get you on at another time, man. I'm really sorry if we can't sort this out here. There's some feedback coming through here. I don't know if you have just a set of headphones with a mic, a headset. You could try that. But I'll leave you just in the waiting room, Yusuf, until you think you're kind of good to go or whatnot. So, okay, everybody. And continuing on, I want to hear where everybody's at in terms of Arthur. How do we cope? How do we deal with this now? Because originally it was a knock. He was slated on some type of day-to-day, like he was going to be able to play and whatnot. However, now the news breaking out that if they cannot deal with the calcification in this leg, that there is a potential for surgery. So what happened to be, a month situation could potentially be something a lot more intense, also taking him possibly for the rest of the season. This is a big blow to Juventus. Ciao, Antonio. Thanks for joining, whatnot. This is a big blow. I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think is going to end up happening now with the midfield. How should we cope? We've seen recently a more 4-4-2 setup using Danilo Quadrado on the right. It ended up using two pivots. The other wild card here is Aaron Ramsey. Does Aaron Ramsey play do we do kind of a hybrid midfield system with an attacking mid? That's tough to do too, because then it takes away from one guy up top. We saw it with Kulusevski in the manner he played against Merda in the second leg as well. This is tough. Bentancur is going to have to be solid the rest of the way throughout. But again, get your comments in. I want to see what you guys think we can do. Is a change of shape called for, or is it utilization of another player that's particularly on the roster? So let's see here. I'm going to quickly bring Yusuf back. Let's see if we can get him going. Yusuf, no audio, man. So your headset's taking away your audio. But when you get off your audio, I can hear the echo from myself.
Okay.
Try this. No, you're muted. You're muted. Okay, talk.
Hello.
There we go, Yusuf. I can hear you now. Okay. Are you ready now?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So the news of Arthur here, Yusuf, what do you think in terms of how Juventus should cope here? Obviously, Rabiot and Bentancur will be the main men. McKennie, obviously a staple, a lock in our midfield. Do we continue as Bentancur being that lead? Does anybody see Rabiot with the potential of possibly being deeper lying and pushing Bentancur a little further? We won't be able to go with those three guys the entire way. We know that Ramsey has his own health issues and whatnot, but Arthur was really coming on. So if we start to go with our three go-tos, Ramsey's tough to bank on. Do you think more of a 4-4-2 utilizing Quadrado and Danilo on the right? And,
think so, yeah.
Switching up your Chiesa, your Bernardeschi on the left and whatnot. Seems like Kulusevski is going to be switching up one up top. What do you think about this news that broke out?
It's very it's like disheartening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the diagnosis? I saw 45 days.
Well, it was originally a month. Now it's become very, very uncertain as there's the potential for surgery, right?
Mhm.
So it could go further. It could be season ending depending on what comes of the surgery and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's really sure right now. Ken coming in saying yes to the potential of Rabiot being the midfielder that plays deeper. And then we can obviously slide forward with Bentancur, obviously McKennie, who makes great timed runs and whatnot. So this is a big one. Antonio bringing in a key point too. Don't see Pirlo hesitating to bring Fagioli in. And pity we didn't bring Rovella in. Yeah, Rovella doing quite well. Obviously, right around that time, obviously Juve picking him up in the winter mercado and whatnot, but obviously staying out on loan. But yeah, Fagioli could play his minutes, but again, in big matches, maybe now Fagioli gets minutes in matches we wouldn't normally see him in, which, to be honest, credit to him, credit to Fagioli, I'd be perfectly fine with. He's a promising player. I think he can do it, but again, the question remains: will he be able to do it against a tougher opponent than what we saw against Spal in the Copa with acres of space in the middle of the park? I still want to see it in close quarters. And some more important. I don't know if it's something we bank on, but he could be up for getting more minutes because we're going to need to keep the other guys fresh. And then this goes back to Aaron Ramsey and his injuries and whatnot. So I asked a question a few weeks back on a poll and whatnot, and I said, if you had offers for both players, okay, Aaron Ramsey or Adrian Rabiot, and it was up to you which offer you could take and get rid of one player. Which one out of those two do you move on from if you're Juventus?
I would say Rabiot because he's been hurt. I mean, sorry, Ramsey because he's been hurt quite a bit in and out of the lineup. And Rabiot's been okay for us when he plays, and if he's not committing red cards and yellow cards.
Yes, so Aaron Ramsey is your choice. Now, this was it was interesting to see from my point of view watching this poll how much closer it actually was than what I thought. I thought this was a no-brainer. Like for me, it's a no-brainer. I keep Adrian Rabiot. But it was actually a lot closer than I expected. But again, it's interesting how people see the game, how their perspective is and whatnot. But for me, it's a no-brainer on Adrian Rabiot. Aaron Ramsey, I think, is a player Juve should look to move in terms of getting through this situation, losing Artur, the rotation becomes a lot tighter. Aaron Ramsey is not a guy to bank on. Yeah, maybe this opens the door for Fajoli. We'll see. Maybe Pirlo gets tighter with the rotation. Should Pirlo get tighter with the rotation as it is? We also have a situation going into Napoli. It's not a situation, but it's a question mark of do we go with Chiellini and De Ligt? Bonucci had also taken a knock. Okay. He has made it to the lineup sheet. But do you go with Chiellini and De Ligt in this one, or do you play Demiral and Chiellini, keep De Ligt absolutely fresh for Porto, or do you unleash both of them? How would you line up at the two center back spots?
I think I would go with Chiellini and De Ligt for this match.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? I would be fine if Pirlo did decide to put Bonucci in there, because with Chiellini back there and the recent run of form of Chiellini, he's actually been decent. And once Chiellini takes the reins there, Bonucci is a bit better there. But I'd be perfectly fine with deploying Chiellini and De Ligt in this one, because De Ligt, we know he's a young guy. He would have no problem playing this one and a midweek one in the Champions League versus Porto, which is what we have coming up. I want to know from everybody watching here how you would set up the back line. I'd actually want to see what your thoughts are on the lineup. We will get to projections, the projected lineups, but I want to know what you think for the center backs. And Alex coming in real quick. Chiellini and De Ligt for sure. Get them some playing time together before Porto. And that's, I guess, the follow-up question. Do you follow it up the exact same way? We know Chiellini, there's always that potential risk. Giving him his... given his age and whatnot, would you feel comfortable, Yusuf, going Chiellini in back-to-back matches? This one against Napoli and then Porto.
I don't know about back-to-back, because we need to rest them, because we have important matches coming up against Milan and Inter and Lazio and those matches. I don't know if I'd go back-to-back. We could rest them against Porto, maybe.
Yeah, it's a tough one when you look at going back to back, but what's your confidence level at in De Ligt and Demiral against Porto if Pirlo decides to split things up?
So Demiral played really well against Inter.
Yeah, he was fantastic against Merida, but again, that's not my question. My question is, what's your confidence level in the first tie in a Champions League knockout in De Ligt and Demiral together?
It's pretty low, I would say.
How come?
I don't know. I need to see more of him this year.
Okay. So this is where we're essentially at. Is Chiellini again? That risk is always there when he's playing though, and he's fit.
That's great.
I have no worries. Playing him against Napoli, you'd expect that even though Napoli obviously going through some turmoil on their side of things there with surrounding Rino Gattuso, and the guy's just a class act. It's hard not to like Gennaro Gattuso because he's in the hot seat. In my personal opinion, if I were a Napoli fan, not that I would be, because I think they're a bunch of chihuahuas and I can't stand them or their fan base, but if I were, I would not want Napoli to get rid of Gattuso. I think he's doing a good job. But nonetheless, he finds himself in the hot seat here. I think Napoli would be better off losing their president rather than Gattuso. But nonetheless, he's in the hot seat. He was questioned about this match against Juve and if this was the make or break, and he said, "Ask the club." And he fully took accountability for the role he's in and understanding that sometimes these guys got to take the fall. So big amount of respect for Gattuso. Obviously, one of the legends bringing glory home for Italia in 2006. Hard not to like this guy. He's going to have the guys ready. Despite the fact of all that going on. And I think the players themselves will rally around Gattuso and put their best foot forward against Juve. So having Chiellini in there, I cannot see a situation where we get through this match in a position to be able to rest Chiellini later on. Like if he's in there, he's going to be a full 90. So being able to follow that up in the first leg against Porto with Chiellini again, I'm not so sure. But De Ligt and Bonucci, well, against Porto, I have more faith, I think, in Demiral, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a catch-22 there. It's a bit interesting. So I want to know, everybody that's in the chat here that's joining us live, De Ligt and Demiral against Porto, Chiellini and De Ligt against Porto. Do you get Bonucci in there? Put your combinations for not only this match, but how you follow it up. So let's see. I just want to see how everybody's feeling against Porto. If you have more faith in De Ligt and Demiral than maybe some of us other ones have. But carrying on here, we know we've lost Artur. McKennie's going to be big for us. Bentancur's going to have to put in a shift. Bentancur's also got a knock, a nasty injury. So we'll see how that plays out and pans out as well. Some other news, some other fun topics I just want to discuss, and I just want to see where you stand. I ran a poll question, and it appears that some leaks, some rumors, nothing solid by any means, but I love to talk about hypothetical situations. Yusuf, if Cristiano Ronaldo were to stay and sign for Juventus an extension on the contract at the same amount of money he's making now. So his term would end after next season and then be extended. Do you extend him at the same amount of money he's making now? Would you extend that contract, Yusuf?
I think I would with COVID and everything, right?
Okay. So what's your thought process in terms of with and then without COVID in terms of extending the contract?
Without, I might not extend him. See what we can get for him. If it wasn't COVID, right?
Yeah. So you're thinking because of the way the market is, it's an easier decision to extend him.
Yeah. As it stands right now, from what we're hearing, it looks like he will be extended, right?
Well, it appears. I think it's ultimately going to come down to Cristiano Ronaldo. It's his decision ultimately. Yeah. So it'll really tell you what he's looking to do in his career. Because it's the speculations everywhere that he will move to one more league before ultimately. I think ultimately he might be one of those guys that does go to maybe an MLS for the exposure. To further his brand and everything. And who knows, there's been talks about branching off into other avenues, entertainment-wise or whatnot. And I could totally see it if he ever did something like that in the U.S., whatnot. But extending Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't think is as clear-cut as many make it when they say flat out yes. I kind of agree with you. I think there's context there that needs to be discussed. I think there's a lot that matters. Yes, what are our options when the time comes? Should the time come to move on or whatnot? I think it might be a little bit early to make that call right now. But on the other hand, if you wait too long,
Yeah,
everybody's going to know that you're handcuffed. And if you did want to try and get something out of the end of the term before the end of the term, you kind of shooting yourselves in the foot. So it's a tough one. I don't think it's so clear cut. But in comes Ken. Yes, to extension. Simple as that. There you go. Performance wise, look, I can't say no. You can't say no when it comes to performance. He's actually still producing at a high rate. But will time catch up to him eventually? Do you get an extension and apply a lot of money, and then does time start to catch up? And then are you kind of in a situation where you're dealing with a bit of risky business? How long can you bank on him being at that level? Well, you look around and there's a guy like Ibrahimovic that seems to still be doing quite
yeah,
his age, and Ronaldo is a freak of an athlete. So yeah, maybe you can bank on it. Maybe you can bank on it. I think it would be tough, and I've been saying this for a while, for Juve to not get something out of the end of his term. I don't think we can have him just play here and then the end of his contract is up and then we're done. And actually, Vitrajit saying the exact same thing. We can't let him leave like a free agent, and I agree. So, in that respect, and the fact that we're dealing with COVID and moves won't be easy to make, you probably do extend him. But that number is, God, it's so high. So people stick with 31 million, but the 31 million is what he takes home. It's actually like double that annually. So it's a tough one. A lot of context there, but always interesting seeing how Juventini feel and whatnot towards this. I think it's a much bigger discussion, but we got to get into the preview. So let's get to the actual Napoli Juventus match. We'll get to a couple projected lineups. Yusuf, you write and add things in for Bianconeri Zone. We know that you're a contributor there. You've got your preview out for the Napoli match?
it's out. It went out this morning.
Perfect. Fantastic. I want you to kind of preview a few things that you will be looking for in this particular matchup right now, while I dig up the slated projections that we're going to see. There's two possibilities. I've seen two projected lineups, a couple differences in the two of them, but what are a couple things you're looking for in this particular matchup, Yusuf?
So I see like that Napoli's back line's quite weak. So I'll be looking to see how we can expose that in the middle, because they have a lot of injuries. And,
yeah, they will be without Koulibaly, Manolis, Hisaj isn't available, Goulam's not available. So yeah, they will be struggling. If you're Cristiano Ronaldo, he's probably got somebody following around with a towel because he's probably just drooling and salivating at the fact that he could probably feast today in this one. But good call on that one, because they will be without those guys.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'll be looking for. Well, what else? See how Bonucci, if he plays the whole game or not.
Well, that's just it. It's going to be interesting to see if he will be in. So the two projections, one is Szczesny with essentially the same blocks we saw in the last match. Szczesny with Danilo Quadrado on the right side, Sandro, but this time Chiesa instead of Bernardeschi on the left side, Chiellini Bonucci at the center backs with Rabiot Bentancur in the middle and Ronaldo Morata up top. That's one projection. Okay. And then the other we have is very similar, except instead of the two blocks on the sides, you have Danilo, Quadrado, Chiellini, De Ligt across the back, Szczesny in goal again, Rabiot, Bentancur, McKennie in the middle with Chiesa as that flank wing back, and then Morata, Ronaldo up top. So out of these two lineups, and I want everybody that's here live as well to chime in here. Do you prefer lineup one or lineup two? So I'll give you the first lineup again. Okay, so everybody can hear it, and then you guys can say lineup 1 or 2. Lineup 1 is Szczesny, Sandro, Chiellini, Bonucci, Danilo, Chiesa, Rabiot, Bentancur, Quadrado, Ronaldo, or Morata up top. That's lineup 1. Lineup 2, okay, Szczesny, Danilo, Chiellini, De Ligt, Quadrado, Rabiot, Bentancur, McKennie, Chiesa, Morata, Ronaldo. Lineup 1 or lineup 2? Which do you prefer, Yusuf, and why?
Lineup 2, most probably.
Okay, and how's that? Why?
Because Sandro, as usual, has been non-existent again.
Sandro.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's just it's Sandro. It's Sandro. So we got we got Ken coming in with the second lineup. We have Alex coming in with the second line. We have AJ being the one preferring the first lineup. So here's the thing. We've got if there is a God, lineup 2 says Lewis. So I think people are I think we're seeing that first lineup. Very, it's obviously very similar to what we saw last match, where we set up in basically challenging our opponents to come and score on. Okay, so Vishwajit's got first lineup. So this is interesting. We've got a pretty good split. The first lineup seems to be just a shutdown setup. Who's going to be the hybrid there? If you've got Morata and Ronaldo up top, so then all of a sudden you only have two pivots, Rabiot, Bentancur. We could still slide up. Obviously, we'll still slide up with Chiesa and whatnot, but Quadrado's kind of that wild card on the other side. I think he could still do well. I think personally, we'll do well with either setup. You mentioned Napoli being out key guys at the back. Okay. Now, the rest of the team, I think Napoli is still going to play very, very hard and will still create some issues offensively because they still have all their main guys around there, and they're decent in attack. But the second lineup for me, I feel is obviously stronger, but there's a question mark there. There's a question mark there that a couple other people have pointed out here, which is McKennie. McKennie having a bit of an issue with the hip. Do you play him and take that chance, especially when you're going up against a team that's definitely going to be hurting at the back? I'm not so sure I'd take that risk. So maybe, just maybe, I lean towards that first lineup, to be honest, and maybe save McKennie and try to get him going, especially with the news about Arthur. And if we're going to be without him, I definitely don't want to be without McKennie for an extended period of time. He's kind of become a staple. So what do you think in terms of that? Does that start to kind of maybe shift the thinking in terms of lineup?
Yeah, it does. It sways a little bit because we don't want McKennie out for long periods of time.
Well, if he's battling something, I think this might be a decent time to do it. The other question is Sandro. So I'm glad you brought up Alexandro, and I want to hear what everybody's thoughts are on Sandro. And Eric wasted no time saying Sandro might still be leaving his house by the time the squad makes it to the stadium. So yes, we know Sandro has definitely lost a step. I keep reading the same things in social media too. It's so funny that he's going to pick up the pace, like he'll get fit and whatnot. I don't think it's happening, man. I think I've been saying the same thing, I think, for a couple seasons. It's just not happening. It's actually going the opposite direction. He's getting slower. But let's get into this here. Sandro, while he may not have the pace that we all want, he may not get as involved offensively, as frequent as we want. Would you have him in the lineup against Porto?
Yeah, probably. He should be okay against Porto, right?
You probably would against Porto. Eh? So this is where it becomes interesting. And again, Pirlo has so many options, which is actually a good thing. It's a very good thing. I say we use Sandro today against Napoli. I think come Porto, I think honestly you go Quadrado on the right side and Danilo on the left and use those guys. Um, I have just as much faith defensively in Danilo, maybe even a bit more than Sandro. And Porto will have good, strong play down the flanks. I don't want to set up against Porto in the blocks, the 4-4-2, like
Hmm.
defensive shell like we did against Merida. I don't want to do that, not in the Champions League, in an away tie as well, because those goals are important. So I'm not looking for a question mark of if we're going to have the balance of play. So I think I personally go with Danilo there, and then one of your offensive guys ahead of him that could still do that defensive work. Chiesa probably be the guy on that side. McKennie, again, keep him healthy, keep him fit, so he can play the opposite side when Quadrado slides up, and he can be that link up there. Rabiot and Benta are going to have to be the guys in the middle. If Ramsey gets fit, he's not in the match for Porto for me. Do you agree with that, Yusuf?
I agree. If he gets fit,
Yeah, even if he gets fit, he's not in the lineup I have for Porto. Dybala's in the same boat. We're waiting for Dybala to come back and get healthy. These guys are day to day. Dybala doesn't make my lineup either. He's got to get minutes in before we can go. This tie is way too important. The first leg against Porto, so it is what it is. For me, none of those guys make it in. Sandro does not make it in against Porto for sure. But Vishwaji coming in saying that many think Porto are big pushovers. No, I haven't read that for sure. If people are, don't sleep on them. They'll be that's going to be a tough matchup for sure. Absolutely. Lewis coming in saying I drop Sandro against Porto and go for a more attacking lineup. I agree. Completely. We can't afford to sit back and wait and be patient in the Champions League tie. We do have to have that edge and go forward and look for goals. Okay. Everybody going into this Napoli match, it's interesting seeing how people feel about the lineups and whatnot. We've talked about it all. We've talked about the turmoil kind of going surrounding Gattuso and Napoli. We know how important this is for Juve and the standings. We may not get help in the Milan match because they're facing Spezia, but Lazio and Merda is a key matchup taking place tomorrow that could affect standings for Juve a bit, which will help. But let's take a look at this Napoli match, okay? Regardless of those two lineups, in my personal opinion, we have more than enough to take them down. They're going to struggle at the back. If Cristiano Ronaldo looks a shred as dangerous as he did in the last outing, when he looked dangerous every single time he touched the ball, was very, very unfortunate not to get a brace. I think we're going to cruise by this one pretty comfortably. Predictions. Yusuf, and I want to get everybody's predictions here in for this Napoli match. What's your prediction on the score line of this one, Yusuf?
2-0.
2-0, so you're going with the clean sheet.
Yeah, another clean sheet. We've had a lot of clean sheets lately.
Yeah.
So I say Ronaldo and Morata will score.
You're picking one for each of the forwards. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here. We'll give the guests some time to get their predictions in here. For me, and Ken again agreeing with me. Rest McKennie, dealing with that hip injury for sure. Lewis coming in with 3-0. Ronaldo, Morata, Chiesa. Yeah. I like that. Like you guys are all sticking with the clean sheet. I personally I see us maybe having one little lapse. I think Bonucci will probably get the start today. Um, I'm not going to say that he's going to be 100% at fault for the goal or whatnot, but I could see Napoli getting something, maybe even getting a PK or something. I'll put them down for one, but I'm going to put Juve down for 3 goals in this one. I think 3 goals we'll get probably at least 2 for sure. I'm thinking we'll get 3 because they're going to be hurting at the back, very, very much so. And I would be disappointed if Juve didn't take advantage of that. So I'm going to go 3-1. Vishwaji coming in 3-1. Ronaldo with a brace. Morata with 1. Luka coming in with Juve 3-1. Ronaldo, Kulusevski, and Chiesa. So he's calling Kulu, who's going to be probably acting as a sub. So I like that. And Kulusevski has been very, very good coming off as a sub. Yusuf, what do you think about how Kulusevski's been used now, making up that second striker position? Do you think he's best as an impact sub? How do you kind of feel about this guy? He's been a guy that we haven't really been able to lock in at a spot.
I like it when he comes off the bench. He's been great for us when he does come off the bench.
Yeah.
Seems when he starts, he's a little lost out there.
There are times, I think even in the last outing, it was tough to gauge because he had to do so much work in terms of his responsibilities surrounding Brozovic for Merda, that it took him away from being an option for Cristiano. So Cristiano essentially was isolated, but he did well, and it always helps when you're playing Skriniar because the guy's a fucking toilet and he sucks. So Ronaldo made him look silly all game long, and I love that. And I wish I still had the video of how Skriniar thought he was so cool singing that song, making fun of Juve's Champions League exit. The kid has literally won 0. He's won nothing. Like, I think he's got like a U18 trophy with like his national U18 side, and I think that's all he's got. So I just absolutely love it when we make Skriniar look as bad as he actually is. He was so overrated by Merda fans. I just love watching that guy get roasted. Love it. Absolutely love it. I think Ronaldo will do some damage today for sure on that back line of Napoli, that makeshift back line. Lewis had a pretty good solid comment in there earlier and put Gattuso at center back ? That might help them out. Although Gattuso's looking it's looking like he's been enjoying a few more extra meals than his playing days, whatnot. But I bet you he'd still have that fight and hunger and desire for sure. So, that's a funny one for sure. Lewis coming in saying Kulusevski definitely at his best as an impact sub, but does a lot of defensive work, to be fair. The funny thing about Kulusevski and his defensive work, he does more as that second striker than he did when he was tried out as one of the wingbacks. He actually does way more out of that second striker role, and it's good because he's in an area where we kind of need it based on this shift in the offensive phase that our play kind of leads to. Having him in there causing havoc in there actually does quite a bit more for Juventus and helps us out a lot more. So it's actually, it's been very, very nice to see. And good stuff from him. And I think as a sub, the kid's got quite a bit of strength to him. He's good running at defenses. So if you get him on tired legs, it's going to be good. And again, today, perfect for him to come in as an impact sub because Napoli's makeshift D-line. So you could put him in, and I have faith he will probably seal that one up and give Luka that goal that he's calling for him. Antonio coming in with the 3-0 for Juve. And then saying Gattuso sacked and De Laurentiis in the loony bin. Forza Juve. That's good. That's good. I like that. I like that. I do feel bad for Gattuso though. I really, really do. But yeah, for me, it sucks. I think it's wrong. And it's something that we talked about in terms of Juventus as well. Pirlo now obviously catching some momentum with this club. Things seem to be going in the right direction. Arthur blow hurts big time. We'll see how Pirlo copes, what he gets going, how he counteracts that. But a lot of talks about Pirlo out early in the season when we were struggling, getting a lot of draws. A couple of them should have been victories. You see a couple bad losses in there, especially the one sticking out was the one against Fiorentina. But this is exactly what a scenario we're trying to avoid Juve being in. When people call for Pirlo out and whatnot, you don't want to create a coaching carousel. I think it's harsh for Napoli should they choose to get rid of Gattuso, but Pirlo so far, has he surpassed your expectations, Yusuf?
More than us the past. I mean, there was a learning curve initially, right?
Yeah.
First time being a head coach and different lineups. So yeah, he's more than exceeded expectations.
Yeah. What were your expectations? What were you willing to go through a trophyless season and still see Pirlo through? Like what was what's your determining factor on sticking with this guy and going through? What were you going to put it down to, Yusuf?
So it was his first year, right? A lot of trials and tribulations. I would give him like a couple years.
So you think a couple of years, regardless of performance, regardless of anything, you think a couple years for any coach coming in?
I would think so, yeah, because
in you saying that, do you believe Sarri should have had another year?
No, not Sarri. Sarri was.
Well, this is what I'm asking. I'm asking you, what are you basing your kind of stipulations on sticking with a manager? What are the things you're looking for that would give you this confidence to continue on? Because a lot of people hold it to the trophies, to the results, to the success. And that's why you see a lot of this Pirlo out immediately when the results start to become a little bit in question, let's say. Right. And then that's where it's like, no, we got to move this guy out. We got to get these players. We got to bring in these guys. But what's your kind of criteria that a manager must meet in order to continue with them? Because a lot of people hold it straight to results. Yeah, but I don't think that's realistic. I think there's a bigger picture there.
Like a set lineup. He's got the team playing well. They're sticking with the system, which he's doing now. And some cohesiveness, like moving forward.
Yeah,
changing lineups and players, it just like.
So you're just basically looking at it as the team in general.
Yeah,
how they're performing, how they're playing. It's not necessarily results.
Well, there's results too.
Well, this is what I'm asking. Like, what is the criteria? You know, like let's say Juventus wasn't in the race for Serie A. Okay. Let's say we weren't in the race for Serie A, but we're playing well. Say we're playing well, and he's continuing to integrate young guys. We're just not getting the results.
I would still keep him for like another year.
Yeah, you would still hang on to him regardless of results or whatnot if you had that belief in his system and what he's doing. I think he's doing well. The biggest thing a lot of people, some people are talking about, but not enough, is how he's integrated the young guys and made them feel a part of this team and the contributions they've made. Big call for him. Sticking with Fagioli and getting Fagioli into the mix. I want to see his confidence level in this kid. And when we see this guy get minutes, it's going to be very, very interesting because I had question marks about it. And were we going to be able to give him enough minutes? But the thing is, the guy's so young, he'll be fine. I think he's already looks so promising. So it'd be interesting. But I want to see kind of how everybody that's joined us live kind of feels. So Lewis saying the difference for Sarri is he didn't have the backing of the dressing room. 100%. This is something you look for immediately. Pirlo has the dressing room, no doubt. It was never a question for me. Never a question he would have the locker room because of his history, not only with Juventus, but just football in general. Being that player that's not so far removed from the game, really. And it was also a big question mark I had about Pirlo. Could he separate that player's way of thinking and that player mentality from himself and separate himself as that manager? I think at the start, you could see him be that player in the decisions he was making and holding off on substitutions when he should have maybe made them sooner. I see a big shift in that in terms of Pirlo. You also seen him make some substitutions that definitely, if he was still thinking as a player, he wouldn't have made. And they were totally game-related calls, and he's starting to make those ones a lot more. So I like that. Eric coming in here with, Sarri needed a bra before he needed more opportunities at you. Oh, man. Eric's always good for a couple of these, man. Good laughs. AJ coming in, saying that he'd be happy with a good Champions League run, semis at least, and Serie A or Coppa Italia. Otherwise, we might think about getting Allegri back. Okay, I'm just going to ask you this question, Yusuf. What would you consider Allegri back? Yes or no?
No.
I'm saying if Pirlo was struggling, say that we were seeing the same stuff as Star One, would you consider Allegri back?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so regardless of the situation, you wouldn't consider Allegri back.
No.
And can I ask you why?
I don't know. I think his time is could have ended, right? I mean, he didn't like to play the young guys at all. He's pretty set in his ways.
I think just for me, I tend to agree that regardless of the scenario, it would be so knee-jerk to pull Allegri back. And you made the change for a reason. You should stick to your guns there. I think, again, nobody can take away what Allegri did. Allegri is a Juventus legend for coach. But to pull him back, maybe in the future, if you have, say, you're in between kind of managers, you want to come back and it's a bit of a stopgap, like, hey, let's bring him back for a couple seasons while we figure out the direction or how I want it. Maybe. But I don't think anybody can deny the fact the team had become stale. The play had become stale with Allegri. When that happens, and you start questioning, is there progress? Is there growth? Naturally, just like Gattuso is going through it and the man at the helm will be accountable. Allegri was kind of accountable, but they did it in a great manner. It was mutual. They did it nicely, went their separate ways. It is what it is. I agree. Bishwaji coming in. If Pirlo stays for 3 years and plays beautiful football for those years, but didn't win a Scudetto, then what would you do? Well, that is a good question. So let's say Pirlo is playing beautiful. So Pirlo has us playing beautiful football. Context, how close are we to winning that Scudetto? How are we losing it? What do our rivals look like? What's the league look like? I personally believe the league right now is at probably the best as far as competitive goes for a long time, to be honest. And you kind of factor that in. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that. I'd have to look at everything as a whole. Where do we stand in terms of Champions League? How are the runs in Champions League? The Scudetto, I never want to give it up. I think we have to come to terms with there's going to be a season where we don't win the Scudetto. It's going to happen, you know? And again, if we're playing beautifully, even playing beautifully is it changes from one fan to the next. Many people wouldn't say that that was a beautiful performance against Merda in the 0-0 draw. I thought it was a beautiful performance. I thought the team was solid at the back, and we ended up with the more dangerous opportunities, even playing with an isolated Ronaldo up top and playing on a counter style. I still think that was beautiful because it was a game plan that was executed to perfection. So even that is subject to these discussions, but playing beautifully isn't solely it. But if we're in the mix in all competitions, and Pirlo has us right there in the mix of all competitions, but we're maybe losing out just a bit. Again, I think it comes down to, are we progressing? Where's the progress? Where's the direction? Like, if we're in the mix on all competitions, we're just not winning them. Is that not what we are still looking for? You want to be in the mix and everything. I think if all of a sudden we start seeing the drop, okay, regardless of playing beautifully, if we all of a sudden start seeing a drop where, oh, we're not close to this target, this objective, you know, and the big ones being Serie A and Champions League. If all of a sudden we start seeing a drop and our opponents are going further up, that's where I see the issue. Okay, it's always got to be progressing. We have to be in the mix. In all competitions, Serie A, Coppa Italia, Champions League, we need to be in the mix. If we're in the mix and right there, I'm actually pretty happy. If he's also doing a lot of good for the young players, bringing it in, I'm okay. What do you think, Yusuf?
I agree. Like if we're in the mix and we're close in these competitions, I'll be fine with that. Like if we're not, then it's time to move on, right? Like if we're getting bounced out of like Champions League early, or we're way behind in for the Scudetto, yeah, I think it would be time to move on.
Yeah, if we start taking, and that's exactly what I'm saying. If we start making steps backwards in some of these objectives, and it's a big drop off, then we have some issues. But yeah, it's for Pirlo right now. I think he's doing a fantastic job. And it's interesting too, as he was questioned about Gattuso, and they asked him about that, and he says, "Look, I got my own problems to deal with." So, and it's good. He feels for him. They're friends, obviously, from their time at Milan and with the Azzurri. But and great stuff as far as the pranks Pirlo used to pull. If anybody hasn't read, I think Therefore I Play by Pirlo, it's a great read, man, and the guy's actually really funny. But yeah, we'll see if he can pull a fast one over his buddy tonight in this match and get that victory. AJ coming in here saying he's cautiously optimistic about Pirlo. Lampard and a fantastic first season, and then collapsed in his second season. Absolutely. It's always a risk, and people talk about these former players becoming managers and whatnot. Not only that for Pirlo, but the fact this is literally his first gig in managing. So it's intense. It's always a hot seat, no matter where Juventus is, standings, in terms of where the club sits. It's always a hot seat. The pressure is immense. The expectations are massive. It's a tough gig. Pirlo, I think, is doing fantastic. The second season, all this, we'll have to see what happens. But the management took a shot on him. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think he's answered a lot of questions that Juventini have had. One question I've had about Pirlo was, Is he going to be a one-trick pony where he has one belief, one system, this is all you see? He's proved me wrong on that. He's proven that, hey, I can adapt my system, I can adapt what I believe in and set a team out, and now we're going to be a lockdown team. Shut this other team down, challenge them to try and score on us and hit them on counters. Shit, okay. And we actually look decent at doing it. There's another flex setup that he can throw into the mix. I'm actually, I wouldn't say cautiously optimistic for him, but I'm just straight up optimistic about what Pirlo can do. If he's also the one that picked out McKennie, the guy that came out of nowhere that made a big impact in the middle of the park for us in a position we needed somebody to do. If he was the one that had eyes on that and kind of said, then I also have even more faith and more optimism towards Pirlo if he's got such good judgment in terms of what he needs for his team. But it's going to be a wild ride the rest of the way. We've got some points to make up. We're in the mix. We have one match in hand. That's going to be the second time with these same little chihuahuas from Napoli that want to talk big. They always want to talk about Juve and this. And then when we go at them, they want to play the little victim card, and be like, oh, why are you guys worried about little old us? We're not worried about you. Stay in your lane, okay? Yippee little fucking chihuahuas. Juve's going to win today. Okay, we got our predictions in. Yusuf's going with the clean sheet. I'm going 3-1. There is a little bit of a Allegri discussion happening in the chat room right now, and it's actually been quite interesting. But basically, Lewis coming in saying that Allegri had good teams, wasn't meeting the standard. It was just essentially just saying it became stale, but the argument is on the rosters. So it's very, very interesting. This has been something that's been going on for a bit. It started off heavily, if we remember, when we were struggling with results, getting a lot of draws. Allegri back. I agree with you, Yusuf. No Allegri back. We got Pirlo. He's doing a good job. We're getting into crunch time. February is going to be big. We've got Napoli today. And again, I don't expect a letdown. I don't expect a banana peel match. I don't think it's a trap game. But I will say this. If we know Juve over the past couple seasons, which matches are always the hardest for Juve? It's the ones right before and right after Champions League ties. Yeah. And it's ones where Juve comes back from an international break. We don't have international breaks to deal with, but this is a match prior to a Champions League match. What we have going for us is the turmoil over there on Napoli. We have the whole De Laurentiis drama and saga and calling out Juve and then saying they weren't slated to play. It's all bullshit, okay? We showed up. We were ready to play. Today, we're going to show them why they should have been scared. They were saying, we're not scared. We will play you and whatnot. Well, you guys were the ones that didn't show up, But I guarantee you, what do I guarantee you? Juve's going to be there, okay? Juve will show up to the Maradona today, and I believe Juve's going to whoop your ass. All right? Yusuf, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, my friend. Thank you. I'm glad we dealt with the technical issues. It's been awesome. Everybody that joined live, enjoy the match. I got another first-time guest coming on the podcast. We're going to do it tomorrow morning live at 5 again. I'm going to go enjoy minus 30-degree weather because I live in Canada, and that's what happens. But enjoy the match. Hopefully we have a victory to celebrate tomorrow morning live at 5. Grazie tutti again for joining. And as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. And if you haven't, make sure you check out Striped Hearts Apparel. Website's down there in the bottom corner. And for this month of February, any purchase of apparel comes with one of the free original tees while supplies last. Okay? Thanks, everybody. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Yeah. Ciao.